Good morning, everyone. My name is Ignas Ananda. I'm a CPA student ambassador of Binus University. It is a very great opportunity to welcome you this morning. I would like to say thank you for joining us today in this international online seminar about economic crisis, uncertainty due to COVID-19 towards professional employees worldwide, an issue that is becoming critical these days. Regarding Zoom security issues, I want to inform you that we use a licensed Zoom and we enable waiting room and filter out participants and audience who join in this event. And make sure you install Zoom through the official website. At this time, I would like to welcome Pak Kevin Deniswara as Deputy Head of Accounting Study Program, Binus University. Please welcome Pak Kevin Deniswara.
Okay, thank you, Ignas. So, good morning, everyone. Welcome all of us on today's seminar. First of all, I would like to thank God for this chance for us to join the seminar. Thanks and welcome to Mr. Ferry Tjie, CPA, for being willing to be a speaker today. And also welcome to Binus University, Faculty of Economics and Communications Accounting Study Program. Thanks also to Mrs. Dania Pratiwi for representing the CPA who has helped this event. And thanks also to Mr. Wishnu Kameshwara as moderator who will guide this seminar. Thanks also to the committee who have prepared today's seminar very well, and also to all of you who participate in the seminar. This seminar will be the last event for CPA Ambassador to 2019. Please welcome Archie Nathanael Mulyawan, Aulia Danesa Ayu, Ignas Ananda, and Stephanie Natania. Okay, and at the same time, it's an opening for Jessica, Raihan, and Akbar, who will continue to become CPA Ambassador 2020. So we are very grateful for today. Nowadays, we all know that the increase of COVID-19 is currently affecting several things throughout the country. The uncertainty situations caused by COVID-19 is detrimental to various industrial sectors like tourism, business, until employees are laid off due to a decrease in company-generated revenue. Furthermore, the government implements new several policies such as work from home, social distancing, and lockdown in each area. This causes many loss in ongoing business activities. As a society, we are worried towards the unexpected future. Losing job, unemployment, and loss of welfare for each employee can happen in the future. Then, what do the top management of each company view about this currently situation? What can employees do in these uncertain situations regarding the spread of COVID-19? And what can the company do to improve the quality and the prosperities for the employee? In this seminar, Mr. Ferry Tjie, as CFO of Active 8, will give you all the information and insight related to the company's top-level perspective of COVID-19. So, in collaborates with CPA Australia to hold international seminar. To shorten the time, that's all for me. Enjoy the seminar. Stay safe, stay home, stay healthy, and stay blessed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pak Kevin Deniswara, for the opening. Moving right along, it is now my pleasure to introduce our moderator, Pak Wishnu Kameshwara Armand, M.Ak, AK, CA, ASEAN CPA, CPA. Let me introduce a brief highlight about Pak Wishnu. Pak Wishnu got his bachelor degree from Faculty of Economy, Trisakti University, Jakarta, majoring in accounting. He then continued to pursue his master's degree in Management Accounting and Controllership from Faculty of Economy and Business, University of Indonesia. Pak Wishnu is a certified public accountant, ASEAN Chartered Professional Accountant, and State Registered Accountant. As a summary, besides teaching as faculty member of Binus University, Pak Wishnu also a member of Audit Committee of PT Pelabuhan Indonesia Investama, International Relation and Assurance Partner of Jamaluddin Ardi Sukimto dan Rekan, with over than 15 years experience of providing assurance and consultation services, and has been involved in the delivery of assurance services to international organizations and international clients such as UNDP Project, UNHCR, Belantara Foundation, and its partners. Please welcome Pak Wishnu Kameshwara Armand.
Thank you, Ignas, for the introduction, and then thank you all for coming for this seminar. I would like to, first of all, I would like to introduce Mr. Ferry Tjie as our speaker today in economic crisis uncertainty due to COVID-19 towards professional employee worldwide. Please, would you care, Ignas, to screen share the CV of Pak Ferry? Okay. Currently, Pak Ferry Tjie, Master of Finance, CA, CPA Australia, or if we may call Pak Ferry, is a Finance Director of Active 8 or Coding Bootcamp. Prior to that, Pak Ferry was a Group Finance Controller of Financial Excels PTE Ltd, Grade 4, where Pak Ferry led a number of important projects under financial technology sector. Pak Ferry was seasoned in corporate finance and forecasting during his tenure in Federal Oil, ExxonMobil, and spent his early years as an auditor in PricewaterhouseCoopers Indonesia as well. And Pak Ferry holds a Bachelor of Science in Accounting from University of Surabaya and Master of Finance and Investment Banking from Queen Mary University of London as part of LPDP awardee and also a CPA Australia and a CA license holder. Time and welcome. I would like to welcome to Pak Ferry as speaker. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you all. Thank you, Pak Wishnu. Thank you, Ignas. Yeah, thank you, Kevin. Thank you all. Thank you for having me here as one of the speakers here for international seminar in Binus, right? So let me share my screen first. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Perhaps. Okay. I think I just received a topic from Binus a week ago about economic crisis. So it's a very, very interesting topic to discuss now about the uncertainty due to COVID-19 towards professional employees worldwide. So as you can see, I would like to provide some facts and figures first. Can you see my slide here? Pak Wishnu? Okay, thanks, Pak Wishnu. Sure. So, okay. So for everyone, I think this is the facts and figures for you to know in terms of the worldwide positive cases now and I think as per last week, it's like more than 4.7 million positive cases, as we know, right? So it's a humongous issue among us at the moment, as we know. The spread level is very fast, and our positive cases in Indonesia is quite high. It's pretty high, actually. It's above 17K now, right? Even though it could be higher than that, as we know, but because of our rapid test that happens is not that quite fast. So I think the number now is not fully reflecting the actual positive cases, but still that's pretty high. And then our PSSB, all right, is applied in Jakarta. It's been more than a month, and also in other area in like Surabaya or in other cities like in Bandung, they applied the same simulations. It's quite retracting all the economist activities now in Indonesia, right? And I think one of the highlights as the consequences of these cases of this pandemic, because WHO, they already declared this kind of COVID situations as a pandemic, right? It's not endemic, but it's pandemic. So it's affecting all aspects in all over the world. So there is, and then we see the next facts about our stocks. If you follow the market, the stock market, it decreases significant drop up to 25% from early 2020. And then our BI rate dropped from in March. So they just announced, BI just announced in March, there is a BI rate drop around 25 basis points. So meaning it's equal with a 0.25%. I think this is a quite important aspect to understand and to know, because it affects our deposit rate and lending facility rate, because it moves all the economic flow, right? So if you, let's say if you want to put your money into banks as a bank deposit, or you want lend some money from, borrow some money from the bank, right? So as the lending facility rate, now the BI already decreases the rate 25 basis point to, I think, 4.5%. So it should be reflected on the public and private banks. So if, let's say if you want to borrow some money for KPR, the rate should be decreasing, right? Plus, on top of it, plus the rate from the bank itself as a margin. Usually the margin for the bank is around 5 to 6%. It really depends on how much is it per bank. And then for the trade balance, but despite of all bad news, right? We still have some good news from the trade balance. So we have the trade balance surplus in March, which is last month, meaning actually it's very rare, because the net export minus the net import, it concludes the trade balance, and is a surplus for March balance. So it's actually helped and assisted from the several factors. It's from the agricultural, and then there is fisheries, there is foods, and etc. So I think this is one of the good news for our current market situations. But then for the Indonesian inflation rate, it's the worst is actually is getting less than 2.5%, or like a deflation, right? Because the purchasing power is decreasing right now. But then I think the government they do a lot of works on this, especially for they provide a stimulus for our society, like around 400 trillions. I think that's the last data dispersed by the government. And also they provide, I think the BI start the initiative for the quantitative easing, which reached around 500 trillion for the amount. So I think that's a huge amount to help Indonesia's economic at this current situations. So that helps pretty much our inflation rate to keep floating between 2.5 to 4.5%. Because the normal inflation rate, it should be floating around 2.5 and around 2.5 to 4.5%. So so I think our government do their job and their best to help our economic. And then for the Indonesian GDP annual growth, actually initially it's 5%. It's 5%, and then after this pandemic happened in China, the government changed to 4.8%. So there's a decrement because they see the result from the Q1 GDP. Our GDP, our Indonesian GDP, is actually decreasing from 5% to 3%, right? So because of this decrement, the government actually they changed like the projected GDP annual growth to I think around 2.5%. I think that's the last data that we have, because as a accountant or someone that works in this kind of industry, we have to know several factors that what happened in the macro economic side, right? Because there's a micro, there's a macro, right? And this one is the macro side. So pretty much it shows some initiative from the government, from dropping the BI rate to increase the economic flow in Indonesia. And then there's a trade balance surplus last month. And then Indonesian inflation rate is also pretty much stable. And our GDP annual growth, yes, it's decreasing. But I think Sri Mulyani, our Minister of Finance, she's doing her best as well to keep everything stable with all the regulations and stimulus. So the last point is about our Forex. As you know, our Forex, I think around in Feb or in March, I think still in Feb, it's still 14,000. I think it's around 40,000. Yes, at that time 40,000. And then now it's around 15,000, but it hits 16,000 as well, right? So it's depreciating quite a lot, like 10 to 15% on average. So it's pretty much like a double-edged sword. Could be good, could be bad, depends on which sectors you see it. Could be for import or for export. So that's why it helps pretty much for the trade balance surplus, because it's affected by our Forex rate as well. So yes, yeah, that's a quick fact sheet about our current conditions for the macro side. And then the next is about, I think, the highest unemployment rate by provinces. As you may all know from the news lately, pretty much the highest is coming from Jakarta, definitely, and then West Java, East Java, and Banten. I think that contributes quite a lot for the unemployment rate currently in Indonesia, which is divided by two sectors, the informal sector and formal sector. The informal sector, I think around 5,000 people unemployed, and the formal sector is quite high. It's around 1.6 people unemployed. So it makes up to 2 million people unemployed. But the data is just keep increasing because they haven't included the data from BPJS, I think. Because when let's say when you work right in a company, you will get paid and pay for the BPJS. Like there's two deductions. You will get deducted and the company need to pay your BPJS, all right? So there's a data there. So when you lay off someone, that payment, the BPJS payment will be stopped, right? So when it's stopped, the unemployment rate will get higher. So now I think it makes up to the 3 million people unemployed, the current data. And I think this is additional information for you guys. I think the latest update, yeah, if you heard the news, I think this is the latest news I got from Traveloka. Since I helped Traveloka in the short term, yeah. So Traveloka, they do some layoff, yes, some actions about it. So from Traveloka and then from Ramayana and then from Modalku, all right. Modalku is one of the fintechs now. They do the same thing. And then Marriott, definitely, the hotel, because one of my friends work in Marriott. We talk a lot, and she's one of the finance director in Marriott, and she shares about some insights about the hotel currently in Indonesia, and it's pretty surprising and yeah, with all the current situations, but they try to keep their employee as long as possible they can. But this is the fact that we all know. Some companies, they do the layoff process with their employees. So I think now the corporate strategy, right? I think this is like the main focus in terms of the micro part of our business, right? So even though you are still in a final year phase, right? I believe all of you 200 final year students here now, right? Hearing this, that you will work soon. So, but I think it's quite important as well for you guys to know what is the corporate strategy during these times and what the company do internally, right? So you get the insights and what the employees should do around this time of season, this kind of league season, but still there's an opportunity there. All right. So I think I pick points and some important points from my experience about the industry and what we should be and what things should be done among this time. And pretty much there is a three factors of strategy. The first is the adjusted business strategy, and the second is cost optimizations, and the third is the post adjustment strategy. I think let's focus first on the first part, the adjusted business strategy. So, okay, first is we should adjust our company rolling forecast, right? So I always emphasize this and it's always been a discussion, a main point discussions among our meeting, that we need to adjust our rolling forecast. We do the financial stress testing. So if you guys know about the rolling forecast, it's like a budget. We create a budget. So there is a revenue, there is a cost, and there's a profit, definitely, right? And there is a cash flow, there is a balance sheet. So like there's a lot of stuff there related with the financial statements, just to make it simple. And then we do our factors. So we put all the factors, all the variable factors. We test it out. So we put, okay, let's say, what about the revenue factors here? If the numbers of customers increases, and what happens if it decreases? What happens if we reduce the prices, or we stop for several months? So what happens with our runway, right? So if I'm talking about the runway, that's like a term about our cash flow, right? So how long is your runway? So meaning how long like your company is going central, right? Or going before liquidation stage or before bankruptcy stage. So how long is your runway? So I think it's very important to map and calculate your runway from your rolling forecast budget. So we do it every week, right? Because at the normal stage, we do the rolling forecast every month, right? But with this kind of situations, we might doing it bi-weekly, right? So it really depends on the situations. So that's the first. And then the second most important is to stretch our business growth and the expansion plan to over XX years. So meaning, let's say for the business, they will keep their fundamental growth, right? But they have their plan for the expansions. I think that's pretty normal in the business, right? So you want to grow your business. So that's why I think you have to postpone your business growth at the moment in these current situations. I think that's totally fine because you want to keep, because the main priority is to keep your company alive, to keep your company keep going, right? So by stretching some expansion plan to, let's say, to the next year or the next 2 years, it really depends on your runway. So you have really to optimize that kind of plan. And then the third thing is do the transition. So transition your current business process to online. As we all know, we all working from home right now, right? Even now you're listening from your home. So I think it's very important to do the transition current business process. And we've done it as well. Since I'm working now in Hacktivate. Hacktivate is a coding bootcamp for 4 months that someone with IT background or someone with non-IT, they can learn coding as a full-time developers. And then we will place them for a job in a company, right? In our hiring partner, we call it hiring partner. So now all the students they learn from the home. They learn from home. They do everything by online. So we prepare all the system, the servers, the infrastructures. I think this is pretty solid and smooth at the moment for all the transitions. So I think it's very important to make sure if you have business, how to convert it into an online stage, right? If you do it offline before, now like you really need to put a lot of effort to convert it into online base. And then the next thing is to evaluate the less productive lines. So if you have several lines, if you have several product lines, right? You have several business lines, you have to evaluate which one is actually less making or less earning money, like quote unquote, right? Or less productive lines. So you need to reevaluate, and if it's still, I think it's still pretty good, like we can continue it. But if it's not that good, then we can just suspend it or terminate it, the loss-making lines. So you have to make that hard decisions. That's hard, but we have to decide it. We have to make it. And then the last thing about to accelerate the new business line alongside the current opportunity during COVID. So in every bleak season and in every hard time, there always been a good opportunity alongside the bad opportunity, right? I mean, alongside the bad side. But for the good opportunity, we can always see it, right? So just give you an example for our business in Hacktivate. What we're currently doing is actually we're dealing with the government. So as you know that a government, they have a program for unemployed people, and they want, if you heard about Prakarja, right? So they want to engage unemployed to get online courses. It's like an online courses, right? So you can learn, and then you finish the courses, and then you get the subsidy. Not mistaken, right? Like they split into four times. Like the first time is the fee for the courses, and then three times for the subsidy, for the living subsidy, I think. So that kind of new business opportunity that we need to look into it, right? So it really depends on the market. So let's say, if I remember, for M.Ak group, as you know, like a lot of store brand like Sogo or like a Topman, you know, a lot of offline businesses now, they convert into online business, right? If you get a message, let's say last week I got a text message from Topman shops, let's say, right? They offer me like a discount or something, blah blah blah, for buying a shirt. So that kind of initiative, driven by the company, to sustain their business by converting into online business, and try to find some new business line alongside. And that's the first. So by the way, if you have any questions, you can just write it down on your chat, because we have our team here to summarize the questions. If you're not forgetting it, right, you can write it up directly. So the second point is about the cost optimizations. So if you're wondering about what kind of type of costs that we need to optimize during a crisis or during a hard time, whatever it is, right? Especially in this type of season. So the first is the marketing expense. The marketing expenses, I think this is pretty huge, and every companies, I believe, they've done it, and same with us. So we reduce our marketing expenses. It could be online, it could be offline, right? It could be billboard, from TV, or from Facebook, Instagram, or whatever it is, the online platform, right? So they do a lot of marketing reductions. So because like if we still increasing the marketing budget, or keep the marketing budget the same, I think it's not that wise, right? In this kind of situations, I think it really depends on which business are you in, right? If your business is highly impacted, then you need to reduce your marketing expenses. But if you have a less impacted business, then you might want to keep your marketing expense or reduce a little bit. So it really depends on the context and the scenario. And then the second is the office-related expense administrations. So I think this is the most quick one that can be done, right? Because when you do your working from home, right, quote unquote, then all your office supplies related will be reducing. So I think this is pretty sure for you to reduce. And then the third one is for the rental contract negotiation. So most startups, they still do the rental agreement for their office. Unlike corporates, perhaps for companies, mostly they already have their own spaces, right? But for startups, it's very expensive. Even startups like Gojek or like Tokopedia or like Shopee, like the biggest the biggest one, I think they still do the rental. They still do the rental. So they do not own the space because it's very expensive and very capital driven, and that's not favorable for the investors, right? So we might need to do the rental contract negotiation. I think it's a must. I think we should do, and I've done it as well. So I negotiate. Could be the service charge, could be the fee, or could be the payment term. Let's say if we paid it in the next 30 days, we might want to extend it to next 30 days, right? And then if the service charge, if we can waive, that would be great, right? So there are a lot of factors that can be considered if you want to negotiate your rental contract. That kind of points like the service charge and then the payment terms, or perhaps even I have the cases, even the space that not yet been rented out. So I postpone it for a few months, right? So let's say if you want to open a new campus and then you have the contract till before, so you might want to renegotiate the contract terms until all the situations going back to normal. And then the next is the extended term of payment. So it's pretty much applied to all expenses. It's applied to all vendors to extending the term of payments. And then we do all the employee welfare perks adjustment. So the meaning of the employee welfare is quite diverse. It's ranging from like the perks, snacks, or perhaps it could be for transportations, variable transportations allowance, or parking allowance, or like what else? The training, perhaps like online training. So that kind of employee welfare or perks might be adjusted in the perspective of company itself. Yeah. So it really depends on how the severity level of the company, right? But this is part of the points. And then the next one is the currency hedging. So the currency hedging, I believe in Binus, you all have studied perhaps to some extent about the currency hedging, right? So we do the currency hedging for if you have the inventory, if you're manufacturing, then you might need to do the inventory hedging, or whatever it is related with your cash outflow, right? So because mostly for startups, they receive the funding from the investors, right? The investor could be from Singapore, could be from US. My investor coming from US and coming from Hong Kong, and some of them coming from Singapore. So we might to pay perhaps some interest or some repayment back to investors. So I think it's very important to maintain your cash level on the local currency level, and then convert it into the USD, right, to pay back to the investors. So just connect with the banks. Usually the corporates, they connect with the banks to do the currency hedging, even though now the hedging is very limited because of this kind of situations. It's not that stable. So the bank might need to give you pretty much a limited hedging, perhaps for 3 months. I think it should be pretty good if you get the hedging for 3 months for many corporates. The longest could be 6 months, but it really depends on the fee, because usually for the hedging there's a fee as well that we might need to take it into account. So make sure that you do the currency hedging, or the corporate want to do the currency hedging. We do it on timely basis, right? Because like every minute it can change. Let's say for last month, 16,000, but now in May, surprisingly, our rupiah appreciated a lot just by far. It's now like 15,000, right? Like, so it's crazy how, you know, the fluctuation happens now, especially in currency. And then the next one is a temporary payroll reductions. So I know it's not a, you know, it's not a nicest things to say about the temporary payroll reductions, but perhaps we might need to do it as well as part of the plan, right? Because I know some company, I think, yeah, some companies, a few companies, they've done this. They've reduced the company, the employee payroll to certain level of percentage. There is a 10%, 20%, and 30%, right? And usually for the top management, they even can reduce their salary to 50%, 50 to 100%. There's possibility, but as far as I know, it's ranging from 10% to 50% now for most companies and startups that I've known so far, that I've been talking to, because their business is impacted extremely. And then the last part is to review the medical health benefit, right? But to be honest, for me, for all the corporate, like, I never recommend to do this part. I never recommend to do the medical health benefit review, right? Because one of the reasons is we want to keep to maintain our employees' health. I think that's the most important things, right? So I think we might not need to do this part. And then we move to the next part about the post-adjustment strategy. So what should be done for after all the adjustment made. So we have done all the adjustment, and then we should do all the first, after, if we have adjusted all the business strategy, we have optimized the cost, but still if you run your business is quite low, then you might need to do this last part, right? This is not the nicest things, right, to be done, but somehow it's need to be done. The first is laying off, for sure, and the second is the company might provide the unpaid leave until further notice. And that's what happens with the hotel sectors, right? Many hotels, they kind of ask, or, you know, like, force their employee to do the unpaid leaves, unfortunately, right, until everything's going back to normal. And then if the company in the manufacturing industry, they might need to sell out all the inventories, or they perhaps fully close down the business temporarily, right? And for closing down the business temporarily, I think this happens to some entrepreneurs. And I heard about Ismaya Group, if you know Ismaya Group, right? Some restaurants under Ismaya, they also committed to close down temporarily until end of this year, right? Because why they should do it, right? Because it's somehow it's better for a company just really to sell out all the inventories and stop like 100% to keep bleeding, to keep away from bleeding, right? So they want to close down the business until certain period of time that they can pretty much quite certain about the other things, that everything is going back to normal. And then the next part is support for the job placement reference. So most companies, they help their employee who get laid off to get a job, you know, like a job placement reference. Because usually in a company or in a startup, we have like association, right? We have like a close link between the companies that they can exchange the information for the job placement reference. And then few things about provide the counseling sessions, provide the medical benefit during post terminations. I think this kind of actions, this kind part of like the goodwill, or like a good genuine from the company to provide the counseling sessions. I mean, for the mental health perhaps, and also for the medical benefits. So I think this one of the important things. Okay, so this is the business impact from the ground level, from the corporate perspective. Now we will take a look from the employee perspective. So what should be done by the employees now when they get laid off? Right? When they get laid off, and they should, and there is a 3-stage based on the phase. Right? The pre-settlement, I said it. The second is settlement stage, and the post-settlement stage. So I think my recommendations and suggestions, if you have family or friends that get laid off and they pretty much confused on what should be done among this kind of season, so I would recommend to make sure you've done it all these stage. First is the pre-settlement stage, right? The first, you need to review the compensations during the layoff reductions, and any rights should be given to the employees, right? So you must make sure all the compensations is properly calculated. Any rights should be given, right? Even though I know like there are several cases that the employees they didn't get like their compensations, right? And that's yes, that happens, and that's pretty much bad news for the employees. But I think it really depends on the company situations, right? But perhaps the best advice just to keep negotiating with the companies, right? Because I think the law, because I handle a bit law here in Indonesia as well. I mean, in terms of the law in Indonesia, I think it's more leaning towards the employee somehow, right? For this kind of situations, for the laying off situations. So it's very clear actually on our law for our workforce law, actually for all the layoff and compensations, and some startups that I've known, they do a good part. They do a proper way to lay off their employees by providing all the compensations and rights to the employee. And the second thing is to ensure you obtain all the employee agreement, you know, all the letter related with the reference letter, with the BPJS letter, or we call it like paklaring, right? There's a paklaring letter, and there is a reference letter. There is a terminations agreement. You have the employment agreement. So all these documents need to be completed on your hand. And then please settle it in a good manner to keep the relationship with the employer, right, in a good situations. And then the next is to seek the counseling support from the expert. So if you really need a help from the expert, please do seek a help from the counselor, or like from to help on your mental health. I think this is not to be ashamed of. I think this is something to need to be put attention more to it, because actually we provide as well. So we have a monthly coaching with a like a coach or counselor or activate, you know, to make sure everyone's mental health is in a good state. So yes, I think this is one of the pre-settlement stage. And then the second part is the settlement stage. So, and then the next part that you need to prepare is to update your CV with the current employment history, and ensure to maintain a good reference with the previous employer. There's no need to be worried about, okay, now let's say now I'm getting laid off, right? And that's pretty much worry me in a way that I'll put in a difficult situations, right? When I want to find a job or to land a job, right? But it's totally normal to collect all the reference, to explain to the new employer that actually you're getting laid off. So everything is clear. So I think there's no hurdles or there's no blockage in this type of situations. I think the new employer they understand as well about the situations. And I think the next part is LinkedIn. So I think this is quite popular in millennials right now, especially for the final year students. I think you need to update your LinkedIn. If you haven't had one, I think you should create your LinkedIn, and then connect with the headhunters, and expand your networks through the LinkedIn. Or if you have any other platform, that will be great. But because I have a close connection with LinkedIn so far, from my 10 to 12 years working experience, I closely related with LinkedIn, and it helped me so much. So I would recommend you to update and connect yourself with LinkedIn. And then track and do the job hunting process, right? So this is one of the most important factors as well. Once you connected to LinkedIn, once you update your CV, then do your homework to do the job hunting process. It could be in company and corporate, through the website, or through the whatever the platform, just write into it and just apply it. And then the post-settlement stage, after you prepare all the things, and you might want to improve, to leverage, right? Because it's very important to do a leverage in this time, to improve, to brush your skills through the online courses, and then register for Kartu Prakerja for free, right? But I will explain further in the next slide about this part. And then join and follow the online professional community. As you know, right, it could be regulated community, it could be informal community, whatever it is, right? So you can join the online professional community and try to doing new things and positive stuff among this time. And I think the most important is just to stay safe and stay sane, right, at this time. So to keep your head up about what should be done next in this time of society. I think it's more related to you, to all the final year students, and what needs to be done. I think before sharing this, I think me, the past 10 years, when I started working in PwC as an auditor, several years there. I think when I was working, I think I'm pretty much, because after the financial crisis, right? And it's pretty much different with the current situations. The current situation for 2020 is an economic crisis, so it's impacted to all, right? If it's back to 2008, it's perhaps to several sectors, and some sectors still keep going, right? But now I think it's a bit different, right? So perhaps the situations, perhaps the stepping stone is a bit different between me like 10 years ago and you at the moment, with this kind of a season. But I do believe some part still remains the same. So I always encourage, right, and remind all the final year students, you know, that and encourage my team as well, because I have friends, I have a team that actually still in a final year students as well. Like, you know, it's nothing to do with you in person, right? So in terms of your quality, there's nothing changed, right? So with all this kind of season, you need to keep your confidence level high, and always update your CV and do your job hunting, and then do your KYC. So, and then practice your edit answer. So I think this pretty much, you know, a classic steps, but this has always been the fundamental factors for you to look for a job, right? To make sure properly see your CV in a good structure, right? Not just create a CV, but just make sure it's in a good format, in a good structure, in a good presentations, and in a good deliverables on what points you want to convey, right? And sometimes it's not only about grade, right? But it's about your soft skill, right? Because it's a mixture between the soft skill and the hard skill, especially for us as an employer. Like we would like to engage and to give a job to the students, like the new graduates or the new hires, someone that actually good in attitude for me first, like in a soft skill, and then second in a hard skill or in your knowledge, in your grade. So right. So I think the good mixtures between it, I think is very important. So be wise and be smart about it. So as I mentioned earlier, it's nothing to do with you. Just update your LinkedIn, update your CV, and do your job hunting. And then before doing the interview, you might want to know your company, right? It's not only KYC for the customer, but for your company as well. So if, let's say, if you want to face like company XX, right, you really need to know what the company is doing, so you can engage in the conversations more natural with the interviewer, right? So, and it shows your intentions and interests to the employer. So I think it's very important to keep that kind of mindset and attitude and answers. And also take an internship opportunity. So I always recommend this part as well. So, it doesn't have to be a full-time job at the first place. You might need to take an internship opportunity, and I think this is a good way to open the door, right, for you. I think for me, for my personal experience, when I work in PricewaterhouseCoopers, I take the line from the internship opportunity. So I think that brings me as a full-time employee in PwC, right? Even though I heard some stories about from my team about some final year students that they did their internship in one of the big fours, right? And then due to COVID situations, and then suddenly they postpone the employment, right, from internship to full time. Somehow they postpone, or they just put a limit to numbers of full-time employees. So for those who've been in internship situations, in the internship process, and they've been put on hold, just, no need to worry, just repeat the cycle for me. I know that's not the nicest things to get the news, right, when you take the internship opportunity and then the company do the stop hiring or limit the hiring, but just keep on trying, keep the cycle until you get a job. So because none better than that, right? Just to give you a little bit of story of my my friend when back in our early years in PwC, right? So my friends actually we are coming from University of Surabaya. We are coming from Ubaya, right? And I believe she's I think the top honor. I think she's getting the highest GPA at that time, or like the second highest GPA at that time. And then she tried to apply to PwC, right? And at that time, still it's very, very tough to get into PwC. Yeah, I believe until now as well. But then it's tougher because it's not that open like at this moment, right? Because PwC they have in Surabaya, but at that time PwC all only in Jakarta, if not mistaken. So she applied. If you know, she applied. This the first trial, she failed, right? The second trial she applied, she did the test and she failed it, right? And then, but she keep on trying. She keep on trying until the third time. She applied it again the third time, and then she passed it, right? So if it happens before, so it should happen now as well. So you just keep on trying. As the proof, one of my friends, she did 3 times trials, and then finally she passed it, and she worked in PwC for quite years now.
Excuse me, Pak Ferry. Pak Ferry. We still have 3 minutes left for the participant to ask the question, Pak Ferry. Thank you, Pak Ferry.
Sure. Okay. Thank you, Pak Wishnu, to remind. Yeah, just a few more notes left. So I think I have mentioned it before about learn new courses, join professional community, like Prakerja, even though I'm not really 100% recommending it for you. who actually can afford the online courses. If you can still afford the online courses, please afford it. Please do not register for Prakerja, because Prakerja is actually free, right? And this is subsidy from the government for those who really in need, right? So if you're really in need, then please feel free to register in the Prakerja. If you still can't afford it, please feel free to purchase to buy the online courses in Coder by Hacktivate, because in Hacktivate we have online courses as well. We engage with government to provide the online courses for Prakerja, discussing about the sales, marketing, IT, whatever it is in online courses. And yeah, so last but not least, just keep trying, just enjoy the process, right? For you until you get a job, right? Because nothing better than to improve yourself, right? To make sure that you do your homework and not depending on someone else, but do your own homework. And then this more on the appendix side. So I got this information from one of the ministries, I think a few weeks ago. But I think it could be changed, right? It could be changed if you see the current situations at this time of pandemic. And then just a quick update for several factors that that get quite impact, right? But some industry perhaps not really affecting. So this is just subject to change, depends on the latest conditions. So the point is actually the first is getting a job, but after that, if you can move to another company or move to another sectors, you might want to reconsider in working in a company that actually they are in a better sectors, in a better sectors. When the crisis hit, perhaps you will not get too much impact to it. So you might want to consider the sectors you want to work in as well. And then I think the last information that I would like to share about several companies that they still do the hiring, like Kredivo, Kopi Kenangan, because I provide these informations because some people asking me about do you know which startup or which companies that they still do the hiring, because most companies they stop the hiring. So this is part of the company they still do the hiring. And for on the right side, if you see the LinkedIn, if you do Robert Walters, right? The Robert Walters is one of the headhunters name, if you know it. And I engaged a lot with the Robert Walters previously, with Michael Page as well. So if it's good to start building connection with Robert Walters. And then there's East Ventures, there is Alpha JWC. So I provide these two names. These two names is actually the biggest venture capital in Southeast Asia at the moment. So you might need to want to get connected with them to see if there is a job with these venture capitals, or you might want to work in venture capitals, right? Because they invest money in a lot of startups now at this current stage. And I believe one of your alumni from Binus International, her name is Melissa Irene, right? Melissa Irene, I think from 3 or 4 years ago. I think now she is one of the partners in East Ventures, and I think that's a good achievement, right? Because now we are working with East Ventures, and our PIC from East Venture is Melissa Irene. So now I'm somehow connected with Melissa Irene as well. So yeah, so that's a brief information about Let Company. So I think that's all. So I think that's all from me. Pak Wishnu, thank you.
Thank you, Pak Ferry, for the excellent description of this topic today. And then for the participant who wants to ask a question for Pak Ferry, please write down in the chat box, and then we can share screen for all of us. Thank you. For the committee, please announce maybe the rule of the game from the questions. Thank you.
Okay, let me unshare first, ya Pak.
Yeah. Everyone who has any question, please do write down in the chat box. Okay, while we are waiting for the questions, okay. I think this is one question, Pak Ferry, from Amanda Geraldine. Sir, what sector will be an opportunity after COVID-19?
Oh, all right.
Okay.
Let me share. For Amanda, right? Pak? Hello, Pak.
Yeah.
Amanda, ya, Pak?
Yeah, Amanda, Pak.
Okay.
Amanda
Yeah.
Geraldine Octavia, Pak.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Let me share my screen again. Okay. Quick one. Okay. This slide. Oh, hi, Amanda. Thanks for asking me these questions. I think, okay, if you can see from your screen, I've put several factors that actually could be a potential winners in this during this peak season and might be resistance for the next future crisis. Because please do bear in mind this kind of crisis, this economic crisis or financial crisis, this might happen again in the next 10 years because it's kind of like a cycle, you know, it's a cycle. So we might want to keep in mind several sectors that actually like, let's say for online, right? So right now, like every online business, you might want to consider it. Even for offline business, now they change and shift toward online business to online platform, right? So I think working in online sectors is quite ideal for now, Amanda. And then for the food processing and retails, for the healthcare, you know, whatever happens, the healthcare is still there, right? So the healthcare and then the technology companies and then food industry related, right? That provide the raw material and then the agricultural, if you can find it once, that's good. And then, yeah, I think the banking could be good as well because that's a defensive sector, like a banking or like educations, right? So like that kind of sectors. But I think the commodity sectors, when I say commodity, it's like mining, oil, you know, oil and gas mining. So that kind of sectors is very fluctuative, right? As you know now, they are going down for the mining and oil, so it's not that good. And then for automotive, it's not that good as well, like selling cars, you know, at this kind of moment, except AHM, because AHM, they sell spare parts. I think they pretty much should survive somehow, right? So we should actually, bottom line is we should learn from the past experience to have a better understanding and predictions for the future. Yeah, I think that's Amanda.
And then we have another question, Pak Ferry. I'm going to share screen first. Excuse me. Okay. Can you read it, Pak? The question, Pak?
Yeah.
This is from Febi Arifin and Chandra Rismana, Pak.
Yeah. Okay. So Febi Arifin. Okay. Now Febi Arifin, I think. Okay. So you asking about the herd immunity, right, to be implemented and will have been the impact to the economic. All right. Yeah, I heard about this kind of herd immunity, right? Because to be honest, right now, even Pak Jokowi, like he said, right, kita berdamai dengan COVID, right? When he said berdamai dengan COVID, so you must, there is a fine line, right? Fine line between avoid and live with it, right? So now we are preparing for, I think for all corporates and for Hacktivate as well, we're preparing some protocols or procedures that we want to implement, what we say as a new normal, right? Because in every crisis, there always been a new normal created. So when this new normal created, you have to adjust to it with certain procedures and protocols, right? So whether this herd immunity implemented or not, but we have to be prepared, right? So the impact to the economy, I think in terms of the direct impact, it really depends, right? If this herd community is really working pretty good and the society can create a good immunity amongst themselves with all the proper protocols like physical distancing, using masks, and you know, whatever it is, like do the disinfectant, and we might survive, right? But otherwise, the other way around, it should be pretty critical for our economy. If everyone's get infected and should be, put back to work from home. So like we are going back to zero, right? So I think it's very crucial to decide whether we want to implement herd immunity or not. Because once we implement it, I'm afraid that we will going back to the zero phase when we just start the working from home. So just be cautious. And then the next part is Chandra Rismana. How to overcome the economic crisis in the financial services sector, which suffered losses on company revenues. You're asking about the banking sector, right? As you might see in the slides, I've put the financial service sector just right in the middle between like the loser and the winners. So it's just like right in the middle, right? Because some part of it, they are defensive sectors. So like now people prefer to have cash, right? To have cash. So they are in a good side. But then in the bad side, of course, they related with all the credits and the bad debt credits, right, happens from the society, from the entrepreneurs, that they cannot repay the installment, the credit installment. So that's why they might face more losses from this kind of bad debt. So yeah, so it's pretty much. But I heard from BCA and several banks, especially from BCA, for last year performance, right? It's astonishing that their performance is pretty solid. But for sure, we have to wait until the end of Q1 because they will issue a quarterly financial report. If you follow the stock market, you will familiar, right, with this kind of report issuance every quarter, right? So we have to monitor and see the result and the performance from the Q1, right? But there could be two sides, and yeah, we have to look into it first. Okay. Thank you, Chandra, for asking.
Okay, thank you very much, Chandra, Feby, and Amanda for the questions. Any more questions for the participants? Please do. Okay, for our information, Pak Ferry, some of the company prohibited their employees to work offline, but the Ministry of Finance has released the letter that for certain industry as a public accountant still permits. Okay, if you don't have any questions, maybe Pak Ferry, please allow me to summing up your seminar today.
Sure, Pak.
Yeah. Okay. For this COVID-19 pandemic, I think there is a shifting mindset of all of us as professional, and then they are shifting from the working all offline to online, and then some industry should adjust their business model. And then for the company as well, for the accounting side, they used to adjust the budget itself to survive in this business rivalry. I think that will be all. Any more additional, Pak Ferry, to add my resume today?
I think it's clear and it's enough, Pak.
Okay, enough. Okay, for the next session, I will share the time and place to the committee to proceed another session. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Pak Ferry and Pak Wishnu, for the insights. I believe this information would be essential for us here, especially in this situation. Before moving to our next event, I also want to extend our welcome to Kak Dania and Mas Putra from CPA Australia. Kak Dania, perhaps you can share a brief introduction about CPA Australia.
Thank you.
Honored to be here to share this session with you guys. Let me share my screen just a few moments. Okay, can you all see the screen? Can you see the screen now?
Yes.
Yes, Kak Dania.
So just to introduce myself, my name is Dania Pratiwi, Business Development Manager of CPA Australia Indonesia office. And today I would like to introduce about CPA Australia, what we do and who we are. So CPA Australia, the CPA stands for Certified Practicing Accountant. We are international professional certification bodies for accountants globally. So why do accountants need professional certification? Because profession of accountant is just like a profession of doctors and also lawyers. So in addition to academic qualification that you receive, there's also a professional certification as an option for you to boost your career. CPA Australia is also a member of IFAC, International Federation of Accountants. Currently, we have more than 160,000 members. We work in 118 countries. Globally, we have 19 offices across the world, and Indonesia being the youngest office in the world. So we started in 2011, and now in Indonesia, we have more than 400 members currently. One of our members is Pak Ferry here today. So why getting CPA Australia certification? Because nowadays we know the effect of globalization. That means borderless profession and mobility. So someone from Singapore, for example, can work in Australia. Someone in Indonesia can work in Singapore. And the mobility is just open. So that's why there's a certain professional certification, international recognition for accountants to be able to work everywhere in the world. Also to keep up with new innovations, because as we know, accounting is not a study program that stops there. So after graduation, you still have to develop yourself and keep up to date with the new innovations, so it can help you doing your job. In CPA, we also promote continuous learning through webinar and also face-to-face event that we conduct every month in our office. For students also, we have student professional development workshop. I will talk about it a little bit later. And also knowing that the CPA Australia designation, it is equals to a postgraduate degree. So if someone with CPA Australia designation would like to get a master's degree in professional accounting, for example, in the future, they can get some exemption from the universities because of the CPA Australia designation. So there are two ways to obtain CPA Australia designation. The first way is to do self-study. This is what most of our members do globally. So it's online learning, plus, and then we will send you the hard copy of the material also. It takes 3 to 8 years. We give maximum of 10 years. So it depends on your pace. You have to complete 6 modules in foundation level and another 6 modules in professional level. But currently we also have a new program called a full-time program. So it's a 2-semester classroom study after you graduate from the university. You can do it either in Singapore or in Malaysia. So it's 2-semester face-to-face class. Then afterwards, you will automatically get the CPA Australia designation. So the full-time study, you will have it's a structured classroom, just like what you do in the university, dedicated academics to provide expert guidance, and also you have classmates to discuss about things. And people consider why people get the full-time program, because they feel like they don't have the capability to do the online, the self-study, and they consider it as a gap year. So 1 year of gap year after graduation to better prepare yourself to enter the workforce later on. Yes, so you can work in Singapore or in Malaysia. You can study in Singapore or in Malaysia full time for this. So what we do as CPA Australia, what CPA Australia does in Indonesia in relation to higher education. Currently, we have more than 15 partner universities across Indonesia. One of them is Binus. 6 out of those 15 universities are already accredited, including Binus. What does that mean? So there are 2 levels in CPA Australia program, the foundation level and the professional level. When you graduate from Binus, because I believe all the participants here today are from Binus, so when you graduate, you are eligible to skip the foundation level, so you get the waiver of foundation level and go directly to the professional level. That also means if you decide to join CPA Australia membership after graduation, you are eligible to put ASA Australia or Associate CPA Australia behind your name. So it will be an added value for you. So in addition to the SA that you receive from Binus, that you earn from Binus, that you will also get the ASA Australia to boost, to help you find a job also. So that's the benefit of graduating from Binus program. We also provide online resources for students. So all of you who register here today, you will automatically get an account in CPA Australia website. So there's an online resources section there for you to look at the reports or findings or recent researches, etc. that will help you in creating your assignments or doing your evaluation. Each year, we also have CPA Australia Student Ambassadors. 2019, as mentioned before, we have 4. We have Archie, Ignas, Stephanie, and Aulia, which I believe are here. Hi. And this year, we got 3 new student ambassadors from Binus, Akbar, Raihan, and also Jessica. So each year, we are recruiting the student ambassador from all of our partner universities. We also organize the Student Professional Development Workshop. I remember earlier, Pak Ferry mentioned about how to optimize your LinkedIn to get better job search or to be recruited for internship or full-time program. Next month, we are going to do the session about how to maximize your LinkedIn online through webinar as a student professional development workshop. So I will send more information about it later on. So that's it about CPA Australia. If you have questions now, you can raise your hand and ask the questions, or you can contact me via WhatsApp, phone, or email there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Budania. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Kak Dania.
Thank you, Ignas.
Now we will have the symbolic handover of the certificate to Pak Ferry Tjie. Please proceed, Pak Ferry and Pak Kevin.
Okay. Thank you, Pak Ferry and Pak Wishnu, for becoming our speaker and our moderator for the. So here is the e-certificate for you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, Pak Kevin. Pak Ferry, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Pak. Yeah, thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
Okay, Ignas.
Okay, great. And for the last part, we are going to have a photo shoot session, a digital photo shoot actually. So please make sure to turn your cameras on. Poino, can you please take the picture?
Please everyone turn on your camera first. I see somebody still not turn on the camera yet. Please turn on the camera first. Okay, we will start. It will take some time because it has lots of page. Okay, let's see the first page. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, wait. Okay. Once again, 1, 2, 3. Okay, for the third page, 1, 2, 3. For the fourth page, 1, 2, and 3. Fifth page, 1, 2, 3. Okay. Sixth page, 1, 2. Okay, last, wait. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, Ignas, thank you, Ignas.
Okay, thank you, Koino. Well, that wraps up our morning. On behalf of Accounting Study Program, Binus University, and CPA Australia, I would like to thank Pak Ferry Tjie, Pak Wishnu Kameshwara Armand, Pak Kevin Deniswara, Kak Dania, committee, and all of you for making time in your busy schedule to join us here this morning. It's been our pleasure to host this event, and I wish you all a pleasant day. See you on another event. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Pak
Thank
Ferry.
you,
Thank you,
Dania.
Pak Wishnu. Thank you,
Thank
Tim. Thank you, Dania. Thank you semuanya.
Thank you,
Stay
Pak Ferry,
safe.
Wisnu.
Yeah. Thank you, Tim. Yeah. Thank you, Tim.
Terima kasih.
Thank you, Ignas.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.